أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين بالقاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Welcome to Shabe Jumah program. Inshallah, we will start with the recitation of Hadith Qissa followed by Dua Kumail. And inshallah, we'll also be commemorating Eisal-e-Thawab Majlis for Marhum Sayyid Muhammad Ismail Rizvi ibn Marhum Sayyid Ali Muqaddas Rizvi. Also with the news of the departure of Marhuma Fatma Kareem bint Muhammad Ali Mirali. We inshallah dedicate this majlis to the departed soul as well. Please recite Surah Fatiha and 3 times Surah Ikhlas for both of these marhumin. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Inshallah, we will start with the recitation of Hadith Qissa. For that, I would like to request Brother Ghulam Haider to start the program.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. عن فاطمة الزهراء عليها السلام بنت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله أنها قالت دخل علي أبي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله في بعض الأيام فقال السلام عليك يا فاطمة. فقلت عليك السلام. قال إني أجد في بدني ضعفا. فقلت له أعيذك بالله يا أبتاه من الضعف. فقال يا فاطمة ائتيني بالكساء اليماني فغطيني به. فأتيته بالكساء اليماني فغطيته به وصرت أنظر إليه وإذا وجهه يتلألأ كأنه البدر في ليلة تمامه وكماله. فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسن عليه السلام قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أمه. فقلت وعليك السلام يا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال يا أمه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. فقلت نعم إن جدك تحت الكساء. فأقبل الحسن نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جداه يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أدخل معك تحت الكساء؟ فقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا صاحب حوضي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل معه تحت الكساء. فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسين قد أكمل وقال السلام عليك يا أمه. فقلت وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال لي يا أمه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. فقلت نعم إن جدك وأخاك تحت الكساء. فدنا الحسين نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جداه، السلام عليك يا من اختاره الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكما تحت الكساء؟ فقال وعليك السلام يا بلدي ويا شافع أمتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل معهما تحت الكساء. فأقبل عند ذلك أبو الحسن علي بن أبي طالب وقال السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله. فقلت وعليك السلام يا أبا الحسن ويا أمير المؤمنين. فقال يا فاطمة إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة أخي وابن عمي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. فقلت نعم ها هو مع ولديك تحت الكساء. فأقبل علي نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال له وعليك السلام يا أخي ويا وصيي وخليفتي وصاحب لوائي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل علي تحت الكساء. ثم أتيت نحو الكساء وقلت السلام عليك يا أبتاه يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال وعليك السلام يا بنتي ويا بضعتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخلت تحت الكساء. ولما اكتملنا جميعا تحت الكساء أخذ بي رسول الله بطرفي الكساء وأومأ بيده اليمنى إلى السماء وقال اللهم إن هؤلاء أهل بيتي وخاصتي وحامتي، لحمهم لحمي ودمهم دمي، يؤلمني ما يؤلمهم ويحزنني ما يحزنهم. أنا حرب لمن حاربهم وسلم لمن سالمهم وعدو لمن عاداهم ومحب لمن أحبهم. إنهم مني وأنا منهم، فاجعل صلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك علي وعليهم، وأذهب عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. فقال الله عز وجل: يا ملائكتي ويا سكان سماواتي، إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا منحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيئة ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا في محبة هؤلاء الخمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء. فقال الأمين جبرائيل: يا ربي ومن تحت الكساء؟ فقال عز وجل: هم أهل بيت النبوة ومعدن الرسالة، هم فاطمة وأبوها وبعلها وبنوها. فقال جبرائيل: يا ربي أتأذن لي أن أهبط إلى الأرض ليكون معهم سادسا؟ فقال الله: نعم قد أذنت لك. فهبط الأمين جبرائيل وقال: السلام عليك يا رسول الله. العلي الأعلى يقرئك السلام ويخصك بالتحية والإكرام ويقول لك: وعزتي وجلالي إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا منحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيئة ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحر يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا لأجلكم ومحبتكم، وقد أذن لي أن أدخل معكم، فهل تأذن لي يا رسول الله؟ فقال رسول الله: وعليك السلام يا أمين وحي الله، إنه نعم قد أذنت لك. فدخل جبرائيل معنا تحت الكساء. فقال لأبي: إن الله قد أوحى إليكم يقول: إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. فقال علي لأبي: يا رسول الله، أخبرني ما لجلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفضل عند الله. فقال النبي صلى الله عليه وآله: والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا، ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا إلا ونزلت عليهم الرحمة وحفت بهم الملائكة واستغفرت لهم إلى أن يتفرقوا. فقال علي عليه السلام: إذا والله فزنا وفاز شيعتنا ورب الكعبة. فقال أبي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله: يا علي، والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا، ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا وفيهم مهموم إلا وفرج الله هما، ولا مغموم إلا وكشف الله غما، ولا طالب حاجة إلا وقضى الله حاجته. فقال علي عليه السلام: إذا والله فزنا وسعدنا، وكذلك شيعتنا فازوا وسعدوا في الدنيا والآخرة ورب الكعبة. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Jazakallah. Please proceed with dua Kumail.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إني أسألك برحمتك التي وسعت كل شيء وبقوتك التي قهرت بها كل شيء وخضع لها كل شيء وذل لها كل شيء وبجبروتك التي غلبت بها كل شيء وبعزتك التي لا يقوم لها شيء وبعظمتك التي ملأت كل شيء وبسلطانك الذي على كل شيء وبوجهك الباقي بعد فناء كل شيء وبأسمائك التي ملأت أركان كل شيء وبعلمك الذي أحاط بكل شيء وبنور وجهك الذي أضاء له كل شيء يا نور يا قدوس يا أول الأولين ويا آخر الآخرين. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تهتك العصام. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تنزل النقام. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تغير النعام. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تحبس الدعاء. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تقطع الرجاء. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تنزل البلاء. اللهم اغفر لي كل ذنب أذنبته وكل خطيئة أخطأتها. اللهم إني أتقرب إليك بذكرك وأستشفع بك إلى نفسك وأسألك بجودك أن تدنيني من قربك وأن توزعني شكرك وأن تلهمني ذكرك. اللهم إني أسألك سؤال خاضع متذلل خاشع أن تسامحني وترحمني وتجعلني بقسمك راضيا قانعا وفي جميع الأحوال متواضعا. اللهم وأسألك سؤال من اشتدت فاقته وأنزل بك عند الشدائد حاجته وعزم فيما عندك رغبته. اللهم عزم سلطانك وعلى مكانك وخفي مكرك وظهر أمرك وغلب قهرك وجرت قدرتك ولا يمكن الفرار من حكومتك. اللهم لا أجد لذنوبي غافرا ولا لقبائحي ساترا ولا لشيء من عملي القبيح بالحسن مبدلا غيرك. لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك وبحمدك ظلمت نفسي وتجرأت بجهلي وسكنت إلى قديم ذكرك لي ومنك علي. اللهم مولاي كم من قبيح سترت وكم من فادح من البلاء أقلت وكم من عثار وقيت وكم من مكروه دفعت وكم من ثناء جميل لست أهلا له نشرت. اللهم عزم بلائي وأفرت بي سوء حالي وقصرت بي أعمالي وقعدت بي أغلالي وحبسني عن نفعه بعد آمالي، وخدعتني الدنيا بغرورها ونفسي بجنايتها ومطالي. يا سيدي فأسألك بعزتك ألا يحجب عنك دعائي سوء عملي وفعالي، ولا تفضحني بخفي ما اطلعت عليه من سري، ولا تعاجلني بالحكومة على ما عملته في خلواتي من سوء فعلي وإساءتي ودوام تفريطي وجهالتي وكثرة شهواتي وغفلتي. وكن اللهم بعزتك لي في كل الأحوال رؤوفا، وعلي في جميع الأمور عطوفا. إلهي وربي من لي غيرك أسأله كشف ضري والنظر في أمري. إلهي ومولاي أجريت علي حكما اتبعت فيه هوى نفسي، ولم أحترس فيه من تزيين عدوي، فغرني بما هوى وأسعده على ذلك القضاء، فتجاوزت بما جرى علي من ذلك بعد حدودك، وخالفت بعض أوامرك، فلك الحجة علي في جميع ذلك، ولا حجة لي فيما جرى علي فيه قضاؤك، وألزمني حكمك وبلاؤك. وقد أتيتك يا إلهي بعد تقصيري وإسرافي على نفسي، معتذرا نادما منكسرا مستقيلا، مستغفرا منيبا، مقرا مذعنا معترفا، لا أجد مفرا مما كان مني ولا مفزعا أتوجه إليه في أمري غير قبولك عذري وإدخالك إياي في سعة من رحمتك. اللهم فاقبل عذري وارحم شدة ضري وفكني من شد وثاقي. يا رب ارحم ضعف بدني ورقة جلدي ودقة عزمي، يا من بدا خلقي وذكري وتربيتي وبري وتغذيتي. هبني لابتداء كرمك وسالف برك بي يا إلهي وسيدي وربي. أتراك معذبي بنارك بعد توحيدك وبعد من طوى عليه قلبي من معرفتك ولهج به لساني من ذكرك واعتقده ضميري من حبك، وبعد صدق اعترافي ودعائي خاضعا لربوبيتك. هيهات أنت أكرم من أن تضيع من ربيته أو تبعد من أدنيته أو تشرد من آويته أو تسلم إلى البلاء من كفيته ورحمته. وليت شعري يا سيدي وإلهي ومولاي أتسلط النار على وجوه خرت لعظمتك ساجدا وعلى ألسن نطقت بتوحيدك ما صادقا وبشكرك مادحا وعلى قلوب اعترفت بإلهيتك محققا وعلى ضمائر حوت من العلم بك حتى صارت خاشعة، وعلى جوارح سعت إلى أوطان تعبدك طائعة، وأشارت باستغفارك مذعنة. ما هكذا الظن بك ولا أخبرنا بفضلك عنك يا كريم يا رب. وأنت تعلم ضعفي عن قليل من بلاء الدنيا وعقوباتها وما يجري فيها من المكاره على أهلها، على أن ذلك بلاء ومكروه قليل مكته يسير بقاؤه كثير مدته. فكيف احتمالي لبلاء الآخرة وجليل وقوع المكاره فيها، وهو بلاء تطول مدته ويدوم مقامه ولا يخفف عن أهله، لأنه لا يكون إلا عن غضبك وانتقامك وسخطك، وهذا ما لا تقوم له السماوات والأرض. يا سيدي فكيف بي وأنا عبدك الضعيف الذليل الحقير المسكين المستكين. يا إلهي وربي وسيدي ومولاي، لأي الأمور إليك أشكو ولما منها أبج وأبكي، لأليم العذاب والشدة أم لطول البلاء ومدته، فلئن سيرتني للعقوبات مع دائك وجمعت بيني وبين أهل بلائك وفرقت بيني وبين أحبائك وأوليائك، فهب لي يا إلهي وسيدي ومولاي وربي. صبرت على عذابك فكيف أصبر على فراقك، وهب لي صبرت على حر نارك فكيف أصبر على النظر إلى كرامتك. أم كيف أسكن في النار ورجائي أفوق، فبعزتك يا سيدي ومولاي أقسم صادقا لئن تركتني ناطقا لأضجن إليك بين أهلها ضجيج الآملين، ولأصرخن إليك صراخ المستصرخين، ولأبكين عليك بكاء الفاقدين، ولأنادينك أين كنت يا ولي المؤمنين، يا غاية آمال العارفين، يا غياث المستغيثين، يا حبيب قلوب الصادقين، ويا إله العالمين. أفتراك سبحانك يا إلهي وبحمدك تسمع فيها صوت عبد مسلم سجن فيها بمخالفتي، وذاق طعم عذابها بمعصيتي، وحبس بين أطباقها بجرمه وجريرتي، وهو يضج إليك ضجيج مؤمل لرحمتك ويناديك بلسان أهل التوحيد ويتوسل إليك بربوبيتك. يا مولاي فكيف يبقى في العذاب وهو يرجو ما سلف من حلمك؟ أم كيف تؤلمه النار وهو يأمل فضلك ورحمتك؟ أم كيف يورقه لهيبها وأنت تسمع صوته وترى مكانه؟ أم كيف يشتمل عليه زفيرها وأنت تعلم ضعفها؟ أم كيف يتقلقل بين أطباقها وأنت تعلم صدقها؟ أم كيف تزجره زبانيتها وهو يناديك يا رب؟ أم كيف يرجو فضلك في عتقه منها فتتركه فيها؟ هيهات ما ذلك الظن بك ولا المعروف من فضلك ولا مشبه لما عاملت به الموحدين من برك وإحسانك. فباليقين أقطع لولا ما حكمت به من تعذيب جاحدك وقضيت به من إخلاد معاندك لجعلت النار كلها بردا وسلاما وما كان لأحد فيها مقرا ولا مقاما لكنك تقدست أسماؤك أقسمت أن تملأ من الكافرين من الجنة والناس أجمعين وأن تخلد فيها المعاندين وأن تجل ثناؤك قلت مبتدئا وتطولت بالإنعام متكرما أفمن كان مؤمنا كمن كان فاسقا لا يستوون. وسيدي فأسألك بالقدرة التي قدرتها وبالقضية التي هتمتها وحكمتها وغلبت من عليه أجريتها أن تهب لي في هذه الليلة وفي هذه الساعة كل جرم أجرمته وكل ذنب أذنبت وكل قبيح أسررت وكل جهل عملته كتمته أو أعلنته أخفيته أو أظهرته وكل سيئة أمرت بإثباتها الكرام الكاتبين الذين وكلتهم بحفظ ما يكون مني وجعلتهم شهودا علي مع جوارحي وكنت أنت الرقيب علي من ورائهم والشاهد لما خفي عنهم وبرحمتك أخفيت وبفضلك سترت وأن توفر حظي من كل خير تنزله أو إحسان تفضله أو بر تنشره أو رزق تبسطه أو ذنب تغفره أو خطأ تستره يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا إلهي وسيدي ومولاي ومالك رقي يا من بيده ناصيتي يا عليما بضري ومسكنتي يا خبيرا بفقري وفاقتي يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا ربي يا ربي يا رب أسألك بحقك وقدسك وأعظم صفاتك وأسمائك أن تجعل أوقاتي في الليل والنهار بذكرك معمورا وبخدمتك موصولا وأعمالي عندك مقبولا حتى تكون أعمالي وأورادي كلها وردا واحدا وحالي في خدمتك سرمدا يا سيدي يا من عليه معولي يا من إليه شكوت أحوالي يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا ربي يا ربي يا رب قو على خدمتك جوارحي واشدد على العزيمة جوارحي وهب لي الجد في خشيتك والدوام في الاتصال بخدمتك حتى أسرح إليك في ميادين السابقين وأسرع إليك في المبادرين وأشتاق إلى قربك في المشتاقين وأدنو منك دنو المخلصين وأخافك مخافة الموقنين وأجتمع في جوارك مع المؤمنين اللهم ومن أرادني بسوء فارده ومن كادني فكده واجعلني من أحسن عبيدك نصيبا عندك وأقربهم منزلة من وأخسهم زلفة لديك فإنه لا ينال ذلك إلا بفضلك وجد لي بجودك وعطف علي بمجدك واحفظني برحمتك واجعل لساني بذكرك لهجا وقلبي بحبك متيما ومن علي بحسن إجابتك وأقلني أثرتي وغفر زلتي فإنك قضيت على عبادك بعبادتك وأمرتهم بدعائك وضمنت لهم الإجابة فإليك يا رب نسبت وجهي وإليك يا رب مددت يدي فبعزتك استجب لي دعائي وبلغني منايا ولا تقطع من فضلك رجائي واكفني شر الجن والإنس من أعدائي يا سريع الرضا يا سريع الرضا يا سريع الرضا اغفر لمن لا يملك إلا الدعاء فإنك فعال لما تشاء يا من اسمه دواء وذكره شفاء وطاعته غنى ارحم من رأس ماله الرجاء وسلاحه البكاء يا سابغ النعم يا دافع النقام يا نور المستوحشين في الظلام يا عالما لا يعلم صل على محمد وآل محمد وافعل بما أنت أهله وصلى الله على رسوله والأئمة الميامين من آله وسلم تسليما كثيرا.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
عجل فرجهم.
أحسنتم جزاكم الله. Thank you very much for the recitation. Before I begin, let's remember the marhumin for whose Eisal-e-Thawab this Majlis is being conducted. Marhum Sayyid Muhammad Ismail Rizvi ibn Marhum Sayyid Ali Muqaddas Rizvi, as well as Marhuma Fatima Kareem bint Muhammad Ali Mirali. Surah Fatiha. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina as-sirata al-mustaqim. As-sirata alladhina an'amta alayhim. غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. So let's remember those who are in need of dua. Let's recite 5 times this verse from Surah Namal together. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. أَمَّنْ يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ 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 وَيَجْعَلُكُمْ خُلَفَاءَ الْأَرْضِ أَإِلَٰهٌ مَّعَ اللَّهِ قَلِيلًا مَّا تَذَكَّرُونَ. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي قصرت عن رؤيته أبصار الناظرين وعجزت عن نعته أوهام الواصفين الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين بالقاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أما بعد، فقال أمير المؤمنين علي بن أبي طالب: حتى إذا بلغ الكتاب أجله والأمر مقاديره وألحق آخر الخلق بأوله وجاء من أمر الله ما يريده من تجديد خلقه أماد السماء وفطرها وأرج الأرض وأرجفاها وقلع جبالها ونسفها ودك بعضها بعضا من هيبة جلالته. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. As you know, this is an Eisal-e-Thawab Majlis, and the marhumin and those names that were recited, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to elevate the status of marhumin, give them a place in the Jawar of Masumin alayhi salatu wassalam. And on the same note, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give patience to the bereaved family for the loss that they have suffered. It's an Eisal-e-Thawab Majlis, and I was thinking about what to present, and I was looking through the khutbas of Nahj al-Balagha, and I came across this particular khutbah where Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam al-Muttaqeen, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi talks about the Day of Judgment. Of course, one of the realities of this worldly life, or this existence of ours, is the belief in the hereafter. That is the first and the foremost thing that 124,000 prophets, one after another, reminded mankind of. They reminded people of to bring faith in one God, that they were the messengers of God, and to believe in the resurrection and in the Day of Judgment. And so, of course, we find that Quran on numerous occasions have addressed this concept very eloquently, and as well as in the Kalam of Ma'sumin, as I mentioned in this khutbah of Nahj al-Balagha, where Amir al-Mu'mineen, which is a lengthy khutbah, I only chosen portion of this khutbah from Nahj al-Balagha, where Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi when he talks about it, this is near khutbah number 108, where he says, until whatever is written as ordained approaches it, and the affairs completes their destined limits, the posteriors, the people who were the previous creations, will join the anteriors. So he says, ulhiqa akhirul khalqi bi awwalihi. Rather, the posteriors, those who are coming, will join those who already left. And whatever Allah wills takes place in the shape of resurrection of his creation. And then he will convulse the sky and split it. Again, reference to Quran. He will quake the earth and shake it. إِذَا زُلْزِلَتِ الْأَرْضُ زِلْزَالَهَا. He will root out the mountains and scatter them. كَالْفَرَاشِ الْمَبْثُوثِ وَتَكُونُ الْجِبَالُ كَالْعِهْنِ الْمَنْفُوشِ, as in Surah Qari'ah. They will crush each other out of awe of his glory and fear of his dignity. Such eloquent words in regards to the picture which is being painted of Qayamat. So this khutbah of Nahj al-Balagha talks about death and Qayamat. It brings us and invites us towards the reality of death and belief in Qiyamah, where you say, well, what does a Muslim need this sort of talk? And we already believe in the reality of death. Death takes place in front of us all the time. And we believe in the resurrection as well. And even those who are not believers per se of any divine religion, but still they believe in the reality of death, because death is something which is a phenomena that takes place in front of them all the time. During this COVID-19 pandemic, if anyone had any doubts, they have learned it the hard way. And even those who are very young to understand this reality yet, but I think as the time is progressing, they have also understood this reality before they should have been exposed to. So life ends, life continues, and it ends like this. And that's how we look at it. So the reality of death and the belief in Qiyamah is something which is not just for those who don't believe in it, but for those who do believe in it, like you and I. Because we, as Muslims, we believe in the reality of death. We believe in the reality of Qiyamah. There's no doubt about it. We believe that Qiyamah exists because there's so much mention of Qiyamah in Quran Kareem. There's so much mention in the Kalam of Hakim and the Kalam of Ma'asumeen. And death, not only because we see death all around us, but also from the fact that it is something which is mentioned, and the belief in the hereafter is something which we have a musallam agreement with. So the word death still terrifies many of us, and we fear it. And that's why it is a reminder for even those who are firm believers in death and Qiyamah. In the Islamic perspective, this topic has a different outlook. It's not something which is to terrify someone and to make them fear it. Since death is a path to the other world, and its reality is considered to be a second birth. In reality, it's considered to be what? A second birth. It's sort of like a rebirth for you. And of course, there are many ayat to back up this concept. When a child is born, and normally children, when they're born, they cry. Well, of course, that's the life, that's the haqiqat and the reality of childbirth as well. They want the child to cry. That is the sign of hayat and life in him. If child doesn't cry at the time of birth, then there could be some serious problem with the child. So his crying is the alamat and the sign of his well-being. But we could look at it from this fact that the reason could be that the child who's born is afraid of entering this world, which is much bigger than the previous abode he was in. So you might be crying that I don't want to come into this world, which is so humongous, which I have no idea about. I was better off where I was before, prior to this, in my limited, compartment. Similarly, passing through the gate of death is not easy for everyone. For some, it might be very pleasant. Those who have prepared enough for their long journey, and this is why if the criminals and sinners, even when they believe in the life after death, they are terrified by death. Why? Because of what they have done throughout their lives. It's not surprising. If you see them, even they are terrified by it. So we see that such a view about death gives insan the power of the ability to struggle, the ability to do jihad. The concept of altruism, ithar, comes into play. The concept of sacrifice on one hand, and the fear of death doesn't drag him toward humiliation. While on the other hand, it serves as a warning to humans in front of their sins. If they are treading down the wrong path, it serves as what? It's a warning. It's a warning sign. Just like when you're driving on a steep hill, and there are warning signs. On a straightforward road, you don't really see any warning signs. A place where, it doesn't really rain, it doesn't really snow, the road doesn't get wet, or it's not a steep hill. well, I believe that even on those roads, there might be some sort of signs of warning that don't fall asleep because there's nothing happening. It's a straightforward road, or that could also be devastating. But we understand that there are more signs of warning on a steep hill, especially places where it rains a lot or snows or sleet and whatnot. Such a view about death gives insan this power of, understanding and a warning to us that look at these signs that are being given to you. Because what? Death is a generalized law for everyone. It's same for everyone. There's isn't any distinction given when it comes to death to all of us. Now, distinctions as far as how your death happens and what happens afterwards, yes, there are distinctions in that. But death for everyone is something which is similar, that everyone will die, for example. So there are many Quranic verses that address this generalization of death for all of mankind. In fact, all creations, even the inanimate objects, they will be perished. They will perish as well. That's why we read in Quran, Kullu nafsin dha'iqatul maut. Now that's where it's referring to nafs. Nafs means the soul. So it's talking about insan for sure over here. This interpretation has appeared in Quran on 3 occasions actually. Ali Imran 185, Al-Anbiya 35, Surah Ankabut 57. This repetition signals the inevitability of death and serves as a warning to all of mankind that they should not become heedless about this reality. So the purpose behind the repetition. From the aspect where death is serving as a doorway to the hereafter, eternal abode, without delay. In Surah Al-Imran, after saying, Kullu nafsin da'iqatul maut, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says the following. So keep that portion in your mind. You only hear this portion, Kullu nafsin dha'iqatul maut. He says, وَإِنَّمَا تُوَفَّوْنَ أُجُورَكُمْ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ فَمَنْ زُحْزِحَ عَنِ النَّارِ وَأُدْخِلَ الْجَنَّةِ فَقَدْ فَازَ وَمَا الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا مَتَاعُ الْغُرُورِ. So the word ghurur has appeared in Quran as ghurur and gharur. So if you hear Qari recite gharur, ghurur, ghurur, gharur, different ways, don't think that they're making a mistake because both have appeared in Quran. Ghurur refers to deceiving. When it says over here that, and you will, وَإِنَّمَا تُوَفَّوْنَ, and indeed you will be paid your full reward on the day of resurrection. So right after it says that every soul must taste the agony of death, it says, and you will indeed be paid your full compensation and reward on the day of judgment. Whoever is delivered from the fire and admitted into paradise has certainly succeeded. The life of this world is nothing but the wares of delusion. So the word ghurur means delusion, deceiving. But the word gharur is what we usually use in Urdu to be what? To be taking pride, feeling proud or something like that. So it says right after that concept of death, without any delay, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is taking our minds toward what? Toward compensation, toward the reward. So there won't be any delay as far as your reward is concerned. So this signals to the fact that the world is the place of action and there's of course no accountability, whereas the hereafter is the place of accountability and there won't be any action. You do all the actions over here, and as soon as it says, kullu nafsin dha'iqatul maut, maut comes, right after that, the compensation is being mentioned. Although this concept sometimes could be misleading, that the place of this world is only for your actions and there's no accountability, and tomorrow there will be accountability and no action, because it's one of the kalam of Imam Ali ﷺ. This concept sometimes could be misleading to many people, and people associate the worldly struggles to the accountability of the hereafter. That if they see someone is struggling, someone develops some sort of illness or struggles in their life with poverty or anything that we associate as a negative thing in our minds, right away people do what? They say, well, this is the athar of their amal. No, there's no athar of amal in that sense. That'll be over there. That's why you have this kalam of Amirul Mu'mineen, that today is action and tomorrow is accountability. No accountability today and no action tomorrow. So we believe in that. What we look at as a struggle, what we think is negative, actually is serving as what? As something which is beneficial to this person whom we are feeling pity for. If someone, for example, is struggling, going through a difficult time, or has developed some sort of illness, we are looking at it from our lens as, as accountability. No, that is not the case. That is actually doing service to that individual. So realistically, man can doubt about anything except death. All the inhabitants of the sky and the earth will perish without exception. There's no delaying it. If anyone claims to live forever, is fooling himself and as well as others around them. We read in the Hadith when the verse "Kullu man alayha fanin" from Surah Rahman, ayat number 26, when it was revealed, the angels said, "Mata ahlul arth." The command to end the world has been given. When the ayat was revealed, "Kullu man alayha fan," that everything that is in it will be annihilated, the angel says, Mata ahlul arth. The command to end the world has been given. This is in Tafsir Fakhr Razi. So the reality of death, majority considers death to be fana. Even the angels might be looking at the fana of the world. Their concept of fana might be different. But us as humans, we look at death to be fana, annihilation, and the end of everything. That is why, we feel what? Fearful, and we are terrified by it. The mere concept of it. Quran introduced it as tuwaffiya. God takes the soul. So pay attention to this concept. Transfers you from one place to another. As the ayat of Quran says, Surah Zumar, Allahu yatawaffal anfusa hina mawtiha. Pay attention to the word yatawaffa. Tuwaffiya, where it's coming from, it says that Allah takes the soul at the time of their death. There's some very delicate points that could be derived from it. I'll point them. وَالَّتِي لَمْ تَمُتْ فِي مَنَامِهَا فَيُمْسِكُ الَّتِي قَضَى عَلَيْهَا الْمَوْتِ وَيُرْسِلُ الْأُخْرَى إِلَى أَجَلٍ مُسَمًّى إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِقَوْمٍ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ. And Allah takes the souls at the time of their death. And those who have not died in their sleep, then he retains those for whom he has ordained death and releases others until a specified time. There are indeed signs in that for people who reflect. Surah Zumar, verse number 42. Objective of Quran is to elaborate on this reality. The same way, in your dream, the soul of mankind doesn't perish. It is temporarily disconnected, or its connection with the body weakens. Let's just put it that way. I don't want to say completely disconnected. Its connection with the body, what? Weakens. Kind of like when you are in some parts of your house and you have a Wi-Fi connection, but in certain areas, the signals are very, very weak. So you're unable to connect to the network. And when you're unable to connect to the network, then you're unable to open up that which requires the internet connection. So that same thing happens when we fall asleep. When we're sleeping at night, this minor death comes upon us in our dream. The connection between the body and the soul weakens. And what happens? That the soul is able to wander around. That's why someone wakes up, says, well, I was in Karbala, or I was in Mecca, or I was there, or I was there. Maulana, what is the ta'bir of this? Good things, inshallah. But you see yourself in far distant places, and then you return back. That ayah of Surah Zumar 42 is referring to that. Allati lam tamut fi manamiha. Those who do not die in their sleep, their bodies, their souls are retained, their souls are returned, and those who die, for example, Allah keeps their bodies. So after death, there's no need for annihilation. The same way during dream, your body and your soul, their connection gets weak or is weakened. Similarly, after death, there's no need for annihilation. The soul is set free to travel to the bigger and the eternal abode. That's what Quran is trying to inculcate into us. But of course, the fear of many is due to their evil actions in this world, and that is why they have hard time leaving it. Surah Jumah talks about it, that those who think that they are dear to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they're beloved of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ask them, فَتَمَنَّوُا الْمَوْتِ إِن كُنْتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. Then go ahead and ask for death if you are amongst those who are righteous. فَلَا يَتَمَنَّوْنَهُ أَبَدًا بِمَا قَدَّمَتْ أَيْدِيهِمْ. They will never ask for it because of what they have sent forth. So this extraordinary phenomena is understood over here, that death is not annihilation. It's not the end of everything. Rather, it's the continuation, it's a rebirth, it's a continuation to the final and the eternal abode. So the extraordinary effects of having faith in the hereafter, I think that's where the Lubb Kalam is. That what kind of effects, now when this reality exists, there must be a purpose behind it. The purpose is very obvious, that it gives you a perspective, and there are extraordinary effects of having faith in the hereafter. Muraqibah and muhasibah are two important elements of education in mankind. Muraqibah, having the concept of being constantly watched, and muhasibah, having the concept of being held accountable. They're two important elements in our upbringing, in our education. One of the meanings of muraqibah is that man knows someone is muraqib, watching over him all the time. Moreover, he knows about the hidden secrets of our hearts as well, not only what is apparent to the world, but also what is inside our hearts. So Allah is aware of that. Alimun bi dhat as-sudur. And paying attention to this reality keeps mankind awake. It doesn't let us doze off. And the fact that muhasabah will accommodate every small or big, every good and bad, and it will be answered with complete justice from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, becomes what? The reason that we don't consider ourselves absolutely free in doing whatever we want to, or whatever we can, seeing ourselves to be above the law. It's funny that people want to give you the idea that you have free will, but when it comes to the government, when it comes to the law enforcement agencies, there are certain rules that you have to abide. If you cross those limits and lines, then you're punished. You're arrested. You're put behind bars. Similarly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent you here with a purpose, and there are certain limits that have been guidelines, and the boundaries have been provided for you. وَمَنْ يَتَعَدَّى مِنْ حُدُودِ اللَّهِ, or whoever crosses the boundaries that Allah has created, of course, then there will be punishment for them. So in fact, this accurate accountability should make us just as careful when we go ahead and do something as far as our actions are concerned. So the best manifestation of this concept is the street cameras and the surveillance cameras that we have. The high amount of fines emerging from the tickets of traffic fines and whatnot are to create a safe driving environment on the roads for everyone. Why do you think they have these hefty fines for speeding and going over the limit and whatnot? Just so they can make money? Some may argue. But the main purpose behind it is to keep a safe driving environment for everyone. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he talks about having this muraqibah, street cameras and surveillance, and muhasabah, when you will be either compensated good way or compensated in the bad way, your jarima or the penalty will be given to you. That is to create a very safe environment for all of mankind. But that's why we see a lot of people challenge that decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the educational effects of Qayamat in the ayat of Quran. Let's look at a couple of hadiths before I bring it toward the conclusion. That in Nahjul Balagha, Amirul Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib ﷺ on many occasions have talked about the different educational effects of Qayamat in his kalam. For example, in this khutbah number, it'd probably be around 222, 223, 224. Could be any one of those because of the numbers in English and the Arabic Nahj al-Balagha. He says, Wallahi, لأن أبيت على هسك السعدان مسهدا أو أجر في الأغلال مصفدا أحب إلي من أن ألقى الله ورسوله يوم القيامة ظالما لبعض العباد وغاصبا لشيء من الحطام. This is the khutbah where Imam talks about the struggles of his brother Hazrat Aqil and him asking Imam for some help. He said, by Allah, I would rather remain all night long wake on the thorns, and he talks about the sa'adan thorns, a plant having sharp prickles, or be driven in chains as a prisoner, than meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and his messenger on the day of judgment having oppressed anyone or usurped anyone anything of their worldly wealth. I would rather be what? I would rather remain awake all night, being dragged into these thorns, which are of course uncomfortable, having sharp prickles, and be driven in chains like a prisoner all day long, rather than meeting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and his Prophet on the day of judgment having done what? Having oppressed someone or having usurped anyone's right. By God, those people who usurp the right of Amirul Mu'mineen, they should pay attention. And how we justify some of those actions. Imam says that I would rather suffer that pain than meet Allah having oppressed one person or have usurped anyone's wealth in this world. How can I oppress anyone for a world that is fast moving towards destruction? Then I shall remain in the earth for a long time? No, it'll come to an end eventually. Why would I even bother, harming anyone? And then many other ways Imam has given reference to this. So this was, as I mentioned, is the khutbah where Imam talks about the struggles of his brother Aqil, who had come to ask Imam for some help. It is mentioned that Imam refused to help him because Imam was the Khalifatul Muslimin. He had Baitul Mal in front of him. Aqil ﷺ thought that Imam would be able to give him a favor. Imam refused. And in fact, in some riwayat it is mentioned, or in this khutbah it is mentioned, that Imam asked him to bring his hand closer to the candle. He brought closer to the candle. He said, put your hand on top of it. He did. Started burning. He pulled his hand back. He said, why? Why did you pull it back? He said, well, it's burning. So if you can't feel the heat of this little candle, how will you face the heat of the Jahannam if you were to go ahead and usurp someone's right? Just imagine the concept. In fact, in another tradition from our fourth Imam, Imam Zainul Abidin ﷺ, he says, or I'm paraphrasing what Imam said, he says, the much you can, as much as you can, live through the burning, prepare yourself for tomorrow in the same manner. What Imam is saying is that if you can survive a little bit of burning, let's say if I put a candle and if you put your hand on top of it, how many seconds can you keep your hand on top of it? Seconds, right? See, I used the word seconds. I didn't say minutes. You can probably keep it for a few seconds and then you'll pull it back. He said, sin if you want to, for the amount that you can keep your hand on top of this candle for. 7 seconds, 10 seconds, more than that, it start burning you. If you can't feel that, then of course you have a higher abilities. But if you can only stand on top of this candle for 10 seconds, then that's how much you should only sin for. Because if you can only stand that much burning, 10 seconds worth of burning, then you should not sin more than that. Because over there, if you want to be there for more than 10 seconds, it could be devastating for you. Another tradition of where Prophet brought two of his companions, Abu Dhar and Salman, and he gave them a dirham each. He said, go spend. Both of them went, spent. Next day he called them up, and there was a rock which was burning hot. he said to Abu Dhar, go ahead and give me hisab, accountability of what you did with that 1 dirham that I gave you. Abu Dhar got on top of the rock, which was burning hot. He could barely stand on it before giving all the accountability. He said, I bought this, I bought this, I bought this. He got off. And then Rasulullah asked Salman, what did you do with it? Salman hopped onto the rock, said, I gave it in the way of Allah, and then he got back off. The accountability of Salman was smaller. Why? Because he spent it in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it wasn't a long list. But the long list of Ammar, it was very long that he couldn't even stand. So Rasulullah said this was just an example that as much as you can bear, yeah, that's the word I was looking for, as much as you can bear the pain in this world, that's how much you should only be sinning, because that's the suffering of the hereafter. Imam Ali at another place says, Man ayqana bil khalafi jada bil atiyati. Whoever has yaqeen about the rewards in Qayamat, because sometimes that has to be reminded as well, will be very generous when helping others in this world. That's one of the formulas that Amirul Mu'mineen is giving to you. If you want to see generosity in this world, sakhawat mandi, generosity, someone being sakhi. So there's sakhawat, and there's being generous has nothing to do with the amount of wealth they have. Because a person could be poor and is still sakhi and generous. And a person could be a billionaire and still would not be sakhi at all. He said, if a person has yaqeen about the rewards in Qiyamah, they will be very generous when giving or helping others out. Especially when it's for the cause of something where you say, well, nothing is coming in return. You say, well, a lot of people today in the world who are maybe not Muslims, they're helping. Well, God has given them tawfiq. It's because of the tawfiq, so you can't take that tawfiq away from them. But we can say what is their purpose behind giving. Their purpose behind giving could be, the rewards of the hereafter, or maybe there's some rewards that are associated in this world. This hadith also tells us that having faith in the hereafter makes one generous. So if you believe in the hereafter, you will become what? Generous, regardless of how poor or rich they may be in this world. There are many such traditions by Amir al-Mu'mineen in Nahj al-Balagha, which really requires us to study and go through. I only mentioned one portion of it. Inshallah, I'll continue to do so in the coming weeks. We read in the tragedy of Karbala as well, that Imam Hussain ﷺ on the day of Ashura, when he spoke to his companions, he said, Sabran banil kiram. Look how Imam is addressing them. Sabran banil kiram. Have patience. The children of those who are honorable. Kiram. فَمَا الْمَوْتِ إِلَّا قَنْطَرَةٌ تُعْبِرُ بِكُمْ عَنِ الْبُؤْسِ وَالضَّرَّةِ. What is maut except, a passing, a bridge, which you will pass through عن البؤس والضراء إلى الجنان, toward the paradise. الجنان الواسعة, which is a very wide jannat. والنعم الدائمة, toward those ni'mat which are da'im, which are forever, which will never end. فَأَيُّكُمْ يَكْرَهُ أَن يَنْتَقِلَ مِنْ سِجَنٍ إِلَى قَصْرٍ. Then which one of you will despise the fact that you will be transferred from a prison toward a qasr, toward this fort or this castle, for example? Some of his companions then said, they looked at Imam as he was speaking. He says, Unzuru la yubali bil maut. Look at him. He doesn't fear death at all. He doesn't pay much heed towards it. Imam ﷺ understood. Imam looked at his people and he said to him, Inna dunya sijnul mu'min wa jannatul kafir. That indeed this world is a prison for a mu'min, and it is a jannat for those who are disbelievers. Wal mawtu jasrun ha'ulai ila jinanihim. And maut, death, is a bridge for those toward their paradise. Wa jasru ha'ulai ila jahihim. And it is also a bridge for those kuffar toward their jahim, toward their jahannam. So we understand from this, brothers and sisters, how Imam ﷺ has given us this very unique understanding that on the day of Ashur, Imam stands along with his companions, gives them these glad tidings, mentions to them to get them, gear them up for this ultimate sacrifice, and how true they were when they gave this sacrifice, when they stood in front of the oppression, when they stood in front of tyranny. And even if they were told that there's no reward for you tomorrow, although Imam ﷺ is mentioning to them that there are such rewards that are waiting for you, even if they were told that there are no rewards for you tomorrow, which could be understood from their kalam, as Imam asked many of them to leave. Imam said, I can ask you to go, but they still wanted to stick around to Imam, and they were more interested in giving their shahadat than the rewards that were associated in the hereafter. That is the way Imam trained these companions. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the tawfiq and ability to understand the reality of death and to understand the concept of resurrection. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we understand the philosophy of our creation and the philosophy behind death. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He gives us comfort and solace when it comes to death, or He makes our death easy upon us. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to hasten the reappearance of our awaited Imam and make us amongst the helpers and the soldiers of Imam. One more time, please recite Surah Fatiha and 3 times Surah Ikhlas for the following marhumin: Marhum Sayyid Muhammad Ismail Rizvi, Ibn Marhum Sayyid Ali Muqaddas Rizvi, and Marhuma Fatima Kareem Binte Muhammad Ali Mirali. Surah Fatiha. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. متوجه زيارة